It's the second episode I'm recording today. Hey, so I forgot to mention in the last episode. Oh, yeah, welcome back to WANDEROUS. This is a show designed to push you outside your comfort zone. And I'm your host, Andrew Crusoe, and I have ceased giving a crap about making this a perfect show. Today, we're going to go to Versailles, and I'm going to blow your pants off. I forgot to mention that my couch surfing host was awesome. I really wish that I could have had more time to hang out with him. He was a software developer, something along those lines, working out of his apartment. Just the most generous. I really recommend, if you haven't joined couchsurfing.com, they're not a sponsor, they should be. You should. You meet some of the best humans on the planet. I'm not exaggerating. He made me bisque. He made me vegan bisque soup, which is so kind of him, because one of the challenges of Paris, I mean, bless their hearts, one of the challenges of France is there's a lot of cream and a lot of things. I sort of alluded to that when I talked about Au Fond, the vegan patisserie bakery thing, which was a miracle to find, because French really like their cheese, and that's fine. Like they basically perfected it, but I'm lactose intolerant. So that's great. There are places in the world that are, yeah, and this will be true for you too, that are more in alignment with what I can digest and what I feel good eating, and places that are less in alignment with that. Now, the great thing about a big city like Paris is you can find what you need to find, but when a local cooks something for you and is sensitive to your allergies and your dietary needs and wants to share with you, it's really, really special. It's really lovely. I don't know if I'll include a picture of the bisque. I probably will, just because I'm a foodie. And then I ended up getting noodles. I don't really talk about. I think I went to a Carrefour. Carrefour is a good grocery store. You'll see it. And there are a few other ones. Waitrose. I don't know if they have Waitrose. I definitely had Waitrose in England. And I grabbed. I think he donated avocado. I sautéed some zucchini, and I made food for us this second night. But it was such a special moment to be treated to some really lovely. I mean, he was just such a pleasant person, and I think he was like recently. I want to say he like. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't want to speculate about his personal life, but he was kind of in a transition phase of life, as we often are. Now I'm going to talk about the Metro Pass. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, I recommend that you do that now, because we'll give you context for what's going on in this episode. Welcome to Jardins du Château de Versailles, the Gardens of the Castle of Versailles. Now, this place is really big. I'm not going to give you numbers. It seems like it's like freaking, I don't know, like 5 square kilometers. It's so big. Now, I took the train that was basically free. It was like a half an hour train, but what did I do? I think I tapped. Yeah, I tapped because there was an RFID dingus in the pass. I tapped it on the thing. Google Maps told me where to get off. Tim Tempura. I'm in Versailles, which is quite west of Paris. It's not really in Paris. I mean, according to the internet, which is never wrong. It's 18 kilometers, 11 miles west of Paris, and it is just awesome. Now, all the Louis, most of the King Louis, they started hanging out around, Louis the 13th started hanging out way back in 1633, had a hunting lodge. You got to realize this was much more wild back then. Everything just started getting overly developed The problem was I arrived on a Monday, and that was a mistake, because the Hall of Mirrors, which is one of the biggest attractions, was closed. Basically, the palace part of Versailles is closed on Monday. So don't go on Monday. I screwed up in terms of the timing, but I still ended up having a great day. Part of travel is being flexible and being gracious with your own mistakes. The great news is you can just walk around the castle and you're in the garden. It's a very relaxed environment. I was very pleased. It didn't have to be that relaxed. There are places that are similar that are not so relaxed, that will pat you down, and you're like, oh, maybe he has a thing, and it'll make a crater. It's like, oh, God, it's a freaking forest. The cool thing about Versailles, though, 'cause there was no patting down, it was very, very chill. You get around, and there's a huge fountain, which may or may not be active at the time, but you get there, and you get around behind this palatial structure, and you see it's very reminiscent of the Washington Mall in some ways. There is a central viewpoint where you look all the way down to the canal on the other side. In front of you is a series of one very large fountain, and there's another one further down. And you get a map thingy. I started listening to Rick Steves' app, which I can put in the show notes, that had a kind of a walking tour, kind of a, helpful little thing that was all free. Thank you, Rick Steves. Really love that app, by the way. Highly recommend anybody who's being a tourist in Europe, just get the app. It's free. And you can download a bunch of free little guides. I used it in the British Museum. I used it in some other places, and it really enriches the experience. I believe I linked to it in the British Museum episode, but I can put it in the show notes for this episode as well. As the day wore on, there were less and less people. I got there kind of in the afternoon. I had started too late for some reason. I think the date stamps on these photos is a few hours off, though. I can't really trust these. I would say it was, if I'm remembering correctly, and based on the lighting, it was about midday. So yeah, I just started walking around listening to Rick Steves tell me about Versailles, which was a very pleasant experience. I started examining the fountains, which had a lot of golden or bronze frogs. There was Venus, the goddess of beauty, and all these things. Very fascinating. And there were tortoises. Wait, were there frogs and tortoises? Yeah, there's frogs and tortoises. They weren't on. I don't know why. But it was, it was late August, so it wasn't the height. It was a bit slightly dry, but it was still green. And then I entered my favorite part. I entered the groves. I entered the gardens themselves, which are sort of a labyrinth, not designed to be a labyrinth, but a bit of a labyrinth of walking paths, and then enclosed spaces where trees were allowed to grow and kind of curve over your head. So you have this like canopy effect that happens. So you will get to places on the way that will have a map on the side. You can also, I think, download stuff, but they will have all the bosquets, and bosquet is Bosquet. Bosquet is a grove. It's like it's just a kind of thing. And there are all of these little water features in really funny shapes. It's quite a riot in terms of the geometry of the place. It's pretty far out there, and you can wander around these it was very, very reminiscent of Alice in Wonderland. That was the feeling I got walking through it. You would turn a corner and you would appreciate the Bosquet du Dolphin, the Dolphin Grove. Quite beautiful. I'll put that in the show notes. If you want to see all the accompanying photos to this, by the way, you can see all of them at patreon.com/HelloCrusoe. People who support the show at $10 a month or more get access to all the photos, and they get access to over 25 hours of audiobooks that I've produced too. There's a bunch of backlog, bonuses and wonderful stuff. And that's all in the collections area of Patreon as well. It's pretty easy. If you have any questions, you can always comment on this episode in Patreon, and I can be more than happy to help you out. But it was so vast. I didn't think it'd be so huge, so much to see. It would take a whole day to see every angle of these gardens, and I was taking video, and I've got a pretty funny one I can put in the show notes that I put on TikTok and YouTube at the time. The Apollo fountain is quite interesting. It's Apollo riding all these horses, and it's the form of a fountain, and the geometry is quite nice. It is a vast place. There was another map I came across. I'm going to heart this, put this in the bonus too, that just shows how, you go through this whole area, you think, wow, this is huge. You get to the Grand Canal at the end, which has boats. You can rent a boat and you can paddle around the canal, which is basically it's a lake they constructed that is a plus sign. It's a cross. But beyond the Grand Canal, it keeps going. It's so huge. It's so huge. It's so huge. It's so big. So I ended up spending the whole day there, and I saw maybe 25%, probably less, of Versailles, and it was so relaxing. They have these golden. They'll have like a round platform, and they will put bronze people in various funny poses, and there'll just be roses everywhere. They're just chilling on roses. Now the thing about the dolphin is it's very easy to make the mistake, and I've made this probably in this very episode. The dolphin is not a dolphin. And that's what I thought at the time, because it's a very, a lot of times you're in a foreign country, they take a word, the spelling is different, the sound will be 80% the same with a lot of words. Dolphin is not. The dolphin is the oldest son of the king of France. So this is actually it's a title. It has nothing to do with a dolphin. I'm going to just say that I made that mistake because I didn't, when I was there, I didn't have research. So I get to this fountain, and it doesn't look like a dolphin to me. It looks like, it's very silly. It looks like a sea monster serpent thing. It doesn't look like a man. It doesn't look like the oldest son of France either. So anyway, it's okay to make mistakes about things that were created in the 1660s, especially if it's been a long time since you've had world history classes. So don't make that mistake. Dauphin. Don't make the mistake and the misunderstanding that I did, but a beautiful fountain nonetheless. I'm a very silly person. I took a lot of panoramas. I'll include some of that. So just walking through this, though, you have these towering bushes in perfectly manicured bushes too. These right angles that are not natural at all, towering all around you. It's very easy to get sort of semi-lost. I'll include, I like this picture of me. The best picture of me is right toward the end here. It's very easy to get semi-lost, but it's so fun. And you're not really lost, like you're not really going to be in danger. Oh my gosh, that was the same day. I'm realizing that there's a second part to this day that I might as well finish off with. Holy crap. It's the never-ending day. My couch surfing, I have a picture of my couch surfing host he found a bunch of glass cups just discarded on the street. This is some of the weird, funny things that will happen to you. And he's like, well, I'm going to take these cups. These cups are useful. And occasionally this happens, in these cities, you'll just find the most amazing things right on the street. You know what? I'm actually going to put this for next week because this is a story that deserves its own episode. And there are some wonderful little video clips. This is actually one of the videos I'm most proud of having put together from the footage shot there. But I will definitely include some wonderful photos for this week. And there isn't too much to say about Versailles except go. It feels like Alice in Wonderland. There's definitely a Lewis Carroll vibe. If you go on a Monday, it will probably be less crowded. You won't be able to go into the Hall of Mirrors, but it is a magical feeling. And I don't use that term lightly. It is a magical place. Stand in front of the fountain at the beginning, get a photo, be a tourist, carpe diem, seize the day, sing the song, la la la. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.